Well, when I was growing up and I started dancing, my family didn't know anything about dancing, so I wasn't naturally introduced to the likes of Baryshnikov or Nureyev or Fred Astaire. I was made aware of them much later on in my studies, and all three of them are absolute icons, and I adore all of them. My initial inspirations actually came from motorsport drivers that I just absolutely adored. Two in particular in the drag racing world. One's called John Force and one's called Shirley Muldowney. Shirley was, being a lady, was always told that she shouldn't race and racing's not for her, so she broke down all those boundaries and proved everyone wrong, and went on to become world champion 3 times. And John Force came from nothing. He was a truck driver and just wanted to race and had the passion for it, and has gone on to become the most successful driver of all time. He's won the world championship 16 times. His daughters are all racing now, and he's got, one of the most successful teams in the world. So my inspiration came from motorsport, and then as I developed more of an understanding of the dance world, I quickly fell in love with the Nureyevs and Baryshnikovs. There's a moment before I step on stage that you can easily mistake for nerves, and I've learnt over the years that it's not nerves. It's actually this sense of adrenaline and a slight sense of anxiety. I get so excited before I go on stage. I can't wait for the curtain to go up. We work so hard on a daily basis, training and trying to better ourselves, that you need those moments on stage to let loose. You need to have that sense of freedom. You need to be able to display what it is that you've been working so hard on a daily basis. To continually push and try and better yourself is almost impossible to do without the performance element. The performance element is what makes everything so worthwhile. But ultimately, when you have that moment that you step on stage and you're performing a piece that you love on a day that perhaps you feel really good, the sense of freedom that you experience is just beyond words. The very first principal role I ever did was actually in my first season with the Royal Ballet. It's a beautiful ballet called Symphonic Variations by Sir Frederick Ashton. It all came about by pure luck and pure chance. Unfortunately, one of the dancers was injured, and I was an understudy, not of that particular dancer, but of another dancer. And the lady who was in charge of the ballet said, "Do you know it?" And I honestly didn't know every single detail, but I just said, yes, I can do it. And I jumped on, and they gave me the opportunity. So I was so fortunate to do that in my first season. And Symphonic Variations is such an iconic piece for the Royal Ballet. So it was great to be part of such a historic piece. My first principal full-length role was actually Romeo in Sir Kenneth Macmillan's version. And still to this day it holds such a special place in my heart. I was lucky enough to perform it with Alina Kodjakaru, who is one of the world's greatest Juliets. So I had a taste straight away of what that ballet can feel like, and I'm lucky enough to perform it regularly with the Royal Ballet, and I just performed it with the Queen's End Ballet as well. And I've had some of the best Juliets that anyone could ever wish for. Whenever you meet a new ballerina and you're approaching perhaps a ballet that you've done a lot with previous partners, or perhaps it's a ballet you've never done before, I think the important key element to remember is that the two of you coming together have to both feel free. So I always like it if the ballerina can just throw herself at me and I adapt to her. I think a partner's role is a lot of the time to do that, to adapt and to react to the ballerina. I enjoy swapping partners and working with the different ballerinas, because every single one is so special in their own right, and they all have their own unique qualities, and working with different ballerinas makes you a better partner. Whenever people talk about classical ballet or tap dancing, jazz, hip-hop, I try to shut down each individual box and just talk about dance in general. I think the dance world is one of the most incredible worlds that exists on this planet, and I always encourage students to try a bit of everything, whether it's jazz or Spanish or contemporary tap. I can honestly say firsthand that my training, which heavily involved tap dancing as well as a lot of classical ballet, has helped me to become far more of a versatile dancer. Dance companies around the world are now demanding more and more from dancers. There's no such thing anymore as just a pure classical ballet company. Classical dancers are required to be able to move in ways that perhaps 30-40 years ago they didn't have to. So by training in tap, I personally believe it has enhanced my musicality in the classical world. It's helped with the speediness of my footwork, and the classical ballet training, I think, enhances every other style of dance. Classical ballet really is the foundation of all dance, and just simply life. It can enhance you. You can always spot a person walking down the street that's done some ballet in their life. You know, I think it's a vital tool and a very valuable tool to learn. Well, the Royal Ballet had a new full-length production of Alice in Wonderland created on them a few years ago, and Christopher Wheeldon, the choreographer, knew that I had a history with tap. So he had in his mind a few different ideas about different castings for different roles. And he saw me in the corridor one particular day and just said, "I've put your name down for a rehearsal. Can you please just bring your tap shoes along?" At that stage he was still unclear whether he wanted tap shoes or not. So anyway, I went into the first rehearsal, and that moment that you walk into your first rehearsal with a choreographer on a brand new piece is one of the most exciting moments of a dancer's career, because there's this whole air of unknown excitement. What's it going to be? How is it going to be? I can still remember that first rehearsal we did, and I walked in and he said, "Okay, I think it's for the Mad Hatter, and I think I want you in tap shoes, so let's just see." So we played around for a good hour, just playing around with different ideas. He had an idea in his head of how he wanted the character to look and move, and he asked me to add in some footwork. And after the first rehearsal he said, "Okay, done, keep the shoes, that's how we're going to go down that road." My wife Lizzie is a dancer with the Royal Ballet, and I can honestly say being married to a dancer has helped me so much. We have such a clear understanding of what it is that each other are going through. You know, the career is so demanding, it's high pressure, so having someone beside you, totally supporting you, knowing full well what it is you're going through, is the most valuable thing in the world. Having said that, when we go home, we go home. You close the door, and that's the end of the dance world. You know, it's important to be as normal, so to speak, as possible. But we have our journey home, where we let out what we need to say about the dance world, and when you go home, you're at home.